Welcome back to Lessons from the Fall. My name's Kalpi, and today I want to step back and look at the bigger picture, because over the last few episodes we've spoken about business, decision, pressure and growth. But what I've realised, and what most people don't fully appreciate, is that the business doesn't exist on its own. It sits inside a system, a global system, an economic system, a policy-driven system. And right now, the system is under pressure. Not in one area, across everything. You've got geopolitical tension, real tension, not just headlines. We're seeing disruptions in critical global trade routes, like the Strait of Hormuz, where conflict and seizures of commercial ships are directly impacting energy supply and stability. Oil prices have moved up, supply chains tighten, confidence shifts. And when this happens, it doesn't just stay overseas. It flows through to Australia. It affects fuel prices, it affects transport costs, it affects inflation, and ultimately, it affects every business. And at the same time, you've got domestic pressure building, housing, tax, regulation, supply constraints. We're talking about a country that needs to build around 240,000 homes a year, and we're not even close to that number. And then you ask yourself, why? It's not because people don't want to build, it's because the system makes it difficult. Layered regulation, approval delays, cost increases. We're talking about regulation adding anywhere between $135,000 to $320,000 per house in some cases. Think about that. That's not a small number. That's the difference between affordability and inaccessibility. And then we talk about tax. Stamp duty, something that on paper seems simple, but in reality, it's one of the most inefficient taxes in the system. It locks people in place. It discourages movement. It limits opportunity. And yet, we rely on it. Because the alternative, shifting to land tax, creates short-term revenue gaps for states. So what happens? Nothing changes. And the pressure builds. Now bring this back to business, because this is where it becomes real. You got business owners trying to operate in this environment. They're dealing with it. They're dealing with higher costs, more regulations, uncertain markets, cash flow pressure, staffing changes, and over-regulation. And at the same time, they're watching everything around them become more expensive, more complex, more unpredictable. And no one is really talking about it in a practical way. We talk about policy, we talk about reform, but we don't talk about what it feels like to accurately operate inside this environment, to make decisions when everything is moving, to commit to deals when uncertainty is high, to employ people when costs are rising, to grow when the system itself feels unstable. And this is where I think there's a disconnect, because policy is often designed in isolation, but business operates in reality, and reality is layered. You don't just deal with one issue, you deal with all of them at once. Now, add another layer. Trust. Because when a system becomes strained, trust starts to erode. We see it with the NDIS conversation. We see it in housing. We see it in lending. People start asking, is the system actually working? Is it sustainable? And is it fair? And those questions matter, because once you start to drop, behaviour changes. People become more cautious, more defensive, more focused on protecting what they have rather than building something new. And that slows everything down. Now, from where I sit, running a business, working in lending, seeing deals every day, I see this pressure firsthand. I see business owners who are capable, who have opportunities, who want to grow, who want to input into the economy, but are navigating an environment that's become harder to operate in. Not impossible, but harder. And this is where mindset becomes critical, because you can't control the system. You can't control global conflict. You can't control policy change. You can't control regulation. But you can control how you respond. You can control your structure, your discipline, your decision making. And this is where I think the opportunity sits. Because in times of pressure, the gap between good operators and average operators widens. The ones who are structured, disciplined and aware, they adjust. They don't panic. They don't just chase every opportunity. They focus. They build properly. And over time, they come out stronger. The ones who react, who rush to decisions, who ignore risk, who operate without structure, they struggle. Because pressure exposes weakness, just like it does in individuals, just like it does in business, and just like it does in systems. And that's what we're seeing right now. Pressure exposing gaps, globally, nationally, and within business itself. So the question isn't, is this environment difficult? It is. The question is, how do we operate within it? How do we make decisions when uncertainty is high? How do you build when conditions aren't perfect? And how do you grow without taking unnecessary risk? Because that's what separates long-term success from short-term survival. And that's what I want to keep exploring, not just business, but the environment business operates in. Because if you can understand the system, you make better decisions inside it. This is Lessons from the Fall, and sometimes the biggest lesson isn't the deal, it's understanding the world around you. Thanks for listening, guys. Speak soon.